Welcome to the Alpha Overwatch podcast, where we tackle subjects to help men, especially first responders and military, go forth and conquer. Alpha Overwatch is a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting those on the front line, helping them go forth and conquer in every area of their lives by providing community, support, and tactical retreats. To learn more and support the first responders and military personnel Alpha Overwatch is impacting, visit our website at alphaoverwatch.org. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Alpha Overwatch podcast. If this is your first time, welcome. My name is Richard Jett, the founder and chairman, and it's a pleasure to have you on board. You know, it's been a while since our last podcast. I was hoping to get one out before Christmas, but life happens and you just adapt and overcome, and you got to prioritize. And it was just one of those things that, you know, looking back, it's actually fitting the way that things happened, and this is coming out now because it's all about adjusting and adapting, which is something that, for the most part, you all do great on. And your field of work, being a first responder military, we're having to diagnose things quickly and to act appropriately. And that is also, though, true for our own lives. And coming to the end of 2024, and looking forward to 2025, it's a good time to reflect and look at what are things in the past that maybe we need to work on and change so that we are in a better place at the end of 2025. And, you know, looking back at this past year for me personally, it's been a great year getting Alpha Overwatch finally out there, public, launched. And that there's a lot of lessons that I've learned in getting this going and just looking back in life that I think translate over into all areas of our life. And that's what I was going to share about today. And so one of the things that we can do is just like you guys are men just like me, type A, you know, the go-getters. Let's just get it done. Let's stop the meetings. Let's, you know, that's me. I'd rather let's just go figure it out than sit around and talk about what we're going to do. But so we have no problem grinding and working and you know, staying the course and struggling. That we have no problem with that. But oftentimes what we struggle with is the planning and prioritizing, that we can get ourselves so like, okay, that needs to be done. That I'm going to go do that. Well, this has to be done. And next thing we know, we find ourselves in so many different areas and in so many different things that we can't keep it all straight. And that's where planning and prioritizing comes into effect, that we have to learn how to say no to some things when it's in our control to be able to say that. You know, on call, we don't get to that priority of being able to say, yeah, I'm not going to go on that call, or I'm not going to follow that order. You know, we don't have that luxury, but in our own lives, we do. And we need to look at that because, you know, my dad always said that, you know, ministry flows from the home. Well, the same is true for, I think, any work of life. If your home is a wreck, it's going to eventually transfer over into your shift and the way that you are at work. And so as much as we'd like to say, oh, I just leave it in the car and, you know, as soon as I come in, I leave it alone. We're human, and it's going to be back there in the back of our minds. So the more that we can get locked down and in a good working order, the better we are for when we're on shift or we're on call or we're deployed. And that's what Alpha Overwatch is all about, is helping men be able to go forth and conquer in all areas of their lives. And so part of that is these podcasts, and just looking forward to this coming year, with the format that we're going to be having and guests that we're lining up. It's going to be a good time. And I think a lot of benefit to your lives as well. Biggest thing when it comes to prioritizing and planning is that we can get to a point where we maybe get ourselves frozen, that we try to come up with a perfect plan. And sometimes I can get this in my own head, is I got to figure it out just right, and then I'm going to act. Then other things, I have no problem acting. And then I look at some of the things, and it's like the more I've trained, the more I've practiced things, then it's easier for me to act in that way. But there was a verse in the Bible that I came across that really helped me kind of get off my butt and get going. And it is this, in a tucked away verse in the Old Testament, Zechariah 4:10 says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." And, there is a lot of times that we can kind of, we got to get this all figured out, and we kind of focus on the big thing. But the challenge is what are the small things that you can take place right now to help you get to that bigger thing? So Alpha Overwatch, it was like we wanted to make sure that certain things were in place, ready to go, but it came to a point. It was like, let's get a store set up, and then it was like, let's get this going. Let's, even the podcast, let's wait until we get all the equipment that we need to make the high quality podcast. But then it was like, you know what? There's something to be said about just getting started and get going on what it is that you've been called to do, or that needs to be done. And as you make those small steps, it adds up. It's kind of like the What About Bob, right? The movie, taking the baby steps. Same thing with our life. I've heard the illustration where your life is kind of like an oil tanker. And when you're going out to sea and you got to do a 180, you can't just whip that thing around like it's a, streetcar type thing. It takes a long time to turn that ship all around. Same thing with our life. And so we have to look at what are our goals, and then what are the small steps to help us towards those goals, and what are the things that we're going to have to let go of because it's not in our wheelhouse. And this is something that it's hard a lot of times for us to be able to do, is because we like to be self-sufficient. We're the fixers, and we don't like to ask for help. And there's times that, hey, bravo to that. But then there's other times that that's actually a sign of strength, is, hey, I can't do this. You're really good at this. Can you help me with this? And I've had to learn this, and that humility of being like, hey, you're really good, with your finances. Can you help me figure out like how to figure this out? And having that mentor type relationship with people, or, hey, your kids love you, and your wife always has a smile on her face and looks forward to having you home and being around you. How do you do that, right? It's finding those people in your life that have, that you see some of the results that you would like to have in your own life, and asking them, can you help me? And a lot of times it's these small things, and these small things add up to a bigger results that we're wanting. And so we have to prioritize and figure out those steps that need to be taking place, because if we're not careful, then we'll just stall out. We'll miss an opportunity. But if we're also not careful, we will take advantage of too many opportunities and burn ourselves out. And we have to have this constant assessment, just like a patient, you're having to do the assessment. You're having to see, are the things that I'm doing, is it helping them or hurting them? And so we're constantly doing those reassessments and checking the vital signs. So if you're wanting to get more financial freedom, you're going to have those vital signs of checking your finances. What's coming in, what's going out, where are we at, how much are we putting in savings? If it's more for your physical health, okay, what are some benchmarks that I need to get to? My cholesterol level, my weight, my muscle to ratio, right? There's different things that you can look at. I'm wanting to get better in this aspect of my job, whether it's throwing ladders or at the gun range, or if it's, how quickly you can assess a patient and get the right medication going. Like, there's certain things that maybe you kind of are looking at. How can I improve in this? Okay, what are training steps that I need to take to get to that point? It's all about these small steps. And we shouldn't disregard those small things. Like, those small things, they add up. And so what are those small beginnings that we can take place this coming year to prioritize the right thing? This happens a lot of times in our, bigger organizations, or not even bigger organizations, but we can try to we form a committee, and if you want something to die, that's usually how you do it. You form a committee and they talk it to death. And there comes a point when it's like, no, we just need to start making an action and start working that way. And as we go, we are going to reassess and pivot. Pivoting is a huge leadership thing. You have to be able to learn how to pivot, and so that you don't miss those opportunities. So if it's an organization and you're wanting a building, all right, this is where we're going. Let's get some plans on place, but then we need to start the campaigning and getting stuff going, because the longer we take, the more construction prices go up. And so we have to get this going as soon as possible. And we're going to pivot and we're going to make small changes as we go, but this is where we're headed. In our life, hey, we need to buy a house. This is our direction that we're going. Now, these are the steps that we need to take, and you start taking those steps. So what is those goals that you have for the coming year? Because we're living in a good time right now. Like, I don't know, and I don't want to people to shut off because of their political stance, but politically, like, all right, coming into this coming year, new government type switch over and everything like that, like, there's some huge opportunities coming up, and so how are you going to take advantage of those? Are you in a place where you can take advantage of those opportunities? And if not, what are the steps you need to take to get to that point? So let's not be in the same spot that we're in at the end of 2025 that we are in today. How can we get better? It's always looking to get 1% or 2% better than what we are today, every day. How can we get better? So it's prioritizing. It's looking at, and here's the thing also, before I move on to the prioritizing, is how are your actual priorities compared to your aspirational priorities? Let me break this down. You can say, hey, I have a priority of top health, a point, 5% body fat, and those are that's a priority of mine. I want to have a happy marriage. I want to have, kids that love me. I want to excel in my job. Okay, if we look at those, what your aspiring priorities are, how are they? But if we looked at your time management, how much time are you spending on things? Like, how much time are you spending on Netflix and watching, sports, or playing video games? How's your money being spent? If we looked at your time and money, those are two big things. If we looked at those, would we be able to say these are the priorities of your life? That's humbling for me even. And I'm not coming from one that has it all figured out. I'm figuring this out as I go as well. But I have to look at, hey, if I say this is a priority to me, then I need to make sure I'm making the time for it and I'm sacrificing and I'm putting the money towards it. And we can always give the excuse, oh, I just don't have time. I don't have time. Here's one thing I've learned from one of my friends. I'm hoping to get him here on this podcast here soon. He said, you have time. You make time for the things that are important to you. And if it's not important to you, you're not going to make time for it. So you say that having a thriving marriage is important to you. How much time is spent towards that? When was the last time you had a date night? Yeah, I know. Me too. I need to make it more of a priority, with my time and money. If I say, family's important, well, then if we looked at your shift schedule, are you taking off those times that are important to your kid? It's a balance. I get that. But would they be able to look and say, hey, my dad's here for every birthday, or they made a point to be able to make it to, our concert or our game that was important to me. Can you see that? So we have to look at, in our health, I'm wanting to get better in a certain area in my health, or I want to get better at the gun range, or I want to get, well, are your priorities, is your time actually showing that and reflecting that? So look at your time and money, and then you'll be able to see what your true priorities are. Now that you see that, you can take that extreme ownership and saying, okay, what are the changes I need to make in my time and money to be able to actually achieve what I say is my top priorities. And so you have to set that, and then you need to actually then bring some other people and saying, hey, would you say these are my priorities, and how does this, this plan, if not, then how's this look, and do you think this would help me achieve what I say my priorities are? And if you're married, that's the person you have to go to be able to say, hey, look at this. Are these the priorities that you can actually say, I have? So you have to have those priorities in place. And once you have those priorities, it makes it a lot easier when it comes to decision making on, hey, no, I can't do that because that's not a priority or that's not what I'm called to do. And that's where priorities really come into play, is they help laser focus you. They help you get focused on what really matters and what you're actually called to do. And so many times we can get ourselves burned out doing a lot of good things. We don't get burned out from doing bad things. We get burned out from doing good things. And we have to look at, how are we made? What are things that bring us life? What are things that we are capable of doing, and what are things that we're not so good at, and what are things that we can maybe delegate off and to maybe give it to someone that's a little bit more experienced in that, or what are the ways that we can improve in those areas. So it's learning to know your own weaknesses and your limitations. The great philosopher Clint Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations, and that's where your priorities come into place, is looking at what are things that I'm called to do that are high importance and that I have the capability of actually doing, and those are the things that I need to be devoting my time to. And a lot of these other things, these are good things, but they're not what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I do those things, I'm actually going to be robbing others from doing those things that they're called to do, that they get life from. But I'm also going to maybe get myself to a place of burnout where I have too many plates spinning and I can't keep it all straight. And so it's learning how to delegate. And so there's a lot of resources out there to help with those things of learning how to delegate, how to prioritize. One of the guests that I'm trying to work on getting us on the podcast just wrote a great leadership book, and they deal with this. And so I'm going to save some of that more for that future podcast. But biggest thing, going into 2025, here's my challenge to you all, is to take some time. If you can take a whole day, take a day. But if you can only take 30 minutes or an hour, take that 30 minutes to an hour, turn off your phone, and turn on your soul, turn on your heart, and what are these priorities? What are the things that are out of whack, that aren't lining up with who I know I should be? And what are the things that I need to do to become the man that I need to be, that I'm going to be a better man at the end of 2025, that's going to mean it's going to be better for my family. It's going to be better for those that I serve with. It's going to be better for the citizens that I'm serving. What are those things? And what are the things that you're going to have to let go of, that you're going to have to cut? Some of those are going to be hard, but you don't have to do it alone. That's Alpha Overwatch is here to lock arms with you, help you to become better. You have your own brothers around you to just be able to say, hey, this is an area I felt like I really need to work on. I see that you are really good in that. Can you help me to figure out these small steps that I need to take to get to that point? It's just a matter of being vulnerable and being honest with ourselves. Because if you can't deal with reality, then there's not much hope, for getting better in the future. You have to take ownership. You have to be able to learn to deal with reality. But here's the biggest thing, and all your different things, with all the different things that you have going on, if you don't take a break, then you will break. And that's what we're trying to avoid here, is what are the things that you can be doing, what are the things that you need to stop doing so that you can actually be there fully present and fully alive and being the man that you're supposed to be, so that you can go forth and conquer. So take some time and reflect on your life, look to the future. What are some things that you're wanting to accomplish? What are the things that you wanting to do? And what are the small steps that you need to take starting right now to lead towards that direction? And don't despise those small things. Those small things are going to add up to bigger things. I shared earlier on, and this is a big thing for if you Alpha Overwatch, getting involved. If you feel led and can help us with getting the right equipment for the podcast so that's better quality, and will attract more people, you can go on to our website, alphaoverwatch.org, and donate there towards helping us with getting the equipment for the podcast, and would greatly appreciate that. And there's a lot of other things coming up as well. And we're excited. We're trying to get a shop with our merch set up. And what is that going to look like? So if you have access to some of that stuff and you're like, hey, we can help out in that area, please reach out. You can email me, rjett, Jett, at alphaoverwatch.org. We're taking these small steps. We didn't wait until we had it all figured out and perfect to present it. We're like, hey, the need is now. Let's get out there. We can figure out some of these other things as we go. But those are two big things right now: is setting up some of our merch and store just to get the message out there. And then I want to get the podcast better quality with the mics and video. And so if you can help us out in that area, would deeply appreciate it, guys. We're here for you, and no matter what, if we can be of any benefit to you, please reach out, and look forward to, getting the message more out there. But then we are in the talks and getting our first recon event scheduled, kind of our pilot program. And if you would like to be part of that, you can reach out as well. All right, guys, throwing a lot at you. It's the holidays. You don't need a long message. Just take some time and prioritize, look back at your life, and look at the areas that you need to improve. If you can't think of ways to improve, ask those around you. They'll be glad to help you out and point out some areas that you need to work on. All right, guys. Hey, until next time, go forth and conquer. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to like, share, and rate the podcast. It really helps us reach more listeners. Don't forget to follow us on social media and visit our website, alphaoverwatch.org, for more information. Until next time, remember to go forth and conquer.